Imagine a roaring V12 echoing across the Italian countryside, a machine built not for comfort but for glory. A car so rare that only a handful exist today, yet it defined Ferrari's spirit of racing in the early 1950s. This is the Ferrari 375 MM Spyder, a weapon designed for endurance, a legend born on the open road. Let's uncover the story behind one of Ferrari's most fascinating creations. The Ferrari 375 MM Spyder was not simply a car. It was a declaration of intent from a young company fighting to cement its place at the top of world motorsport. To understand its creation, we need to step back into the early 1950s, a time when racing was a brutal laboratory where reputations were made and destroyed in a single weekend. Ferrari, less than a decade old as a manufacturer, was still proving itself against established names like Jaguar, Aston Martin, and Maserati. Enzo Ferrari understood one truth. If his cars could conquer endurance races, the whole world would know the Ferrari name. The model's designation tells its story. 375 refers to the displacement per cylinder, around 375 cubic centimeters. Multiply that by 12 and you arrive at the heart of the car, a massive 4.5-liter V12 engine. And the letters MM stand for Mille Miglia, the grueling 1,000-mile Italian road race that tested not just speed, but stamina and engineering resilience. By placing the race's initials right in the car's name, Ferrari made its purpose clear. This was a machine designed to conquer the most demanding endurance events on Earth. The mind behind this car was Aurelio Lampredi, Ferrari's legendary engineer who believed in big displacement engines. While Colombo favored small, high-revving V12s, Lampredi pushed for raw cubic capacity. His philosophy was simple yet daring. More displacement means more power, more torque, and better chances of dominating long straights and steep climbs. But building such an engine was no trivial task. Lampredi's 4.5-liter V12 needed to make close to 340 horsepower at 7,000 RPM, astonishing numbers for its time, while staying alive for hours of relentless racing. To achieve this, Ferrari focused on robust cooling systems, reliable lubrication, and carefully tuned carburetors. Every component had to be balanced on a knife's edge between power and endurance. Ferrari knew it wasn't fighting in a vacuum. Rivals were innovating fast. Jaguar's C-Type, for example, pioneered the use of disc brakes, a breakthrough that allowed its drivers to brake harder, longer, and more consistently in races like Le Mans. Ferrari, by contrast, still relied on hydraulic drum brakes. They worked, but under endurance conditions, they faded badly, forcing drivers to adapt their style. This technological gap meant the 375mm had to compensate with sheer power, lightweight, and bold driving. In many ways, Ferrari's philosophy at the time was, outrun your rivals before they can outbrake you. The chassis was an evolution of the earlier 340mm, strengthened to handle the stress of the larger V12. Constructed from tubular steel, it balanced rigidity with lightness. But what truly set the 375mm apart visually was its bodywork. Ferrari partnered with Italy's great carrozzeria, Pininfarina, Vignale, Scaglietti, and even Ghia, each giving the car a slightly different appearance. The result was that no two 375mm were exactly alike. Some Spyders had muscular, flowing fenders, others looked leaner and more aerodynamic. To own a 375mm wasn't just to own a Ferrari, it was to own a one-off masterpiece shaped by the hands of Italian artisans. And who were these owners? They were the wealthy elite, the so-called gentleman drivers. These were enthusiasts who had the resources to buy a Ferrari straight from the factory, then take it racing themselves, often competing side by side with factory teams. Imagine a businessman from Milan or a playboy from Paris strapping himself into a 375mm and charging into events like the Mille Miglia or the Carrera Panamericana. That was the romantic, dangerous culture of motorsport in the 1950s. Ferrari built the 375mm not only for its own Scuderia, but for these private warriors who carried the prancing horse into battle on roads and circuits across the world. But development was never smooth. Reliability haunted Ferrari's early endurance machines. Clutches failed, gearboxes cracked, engines overheated under relentless strain. At the 24 Hours of Le Mans, one of the toughest stages, the 375mm often showed blistering pace, but suffered setbacks that cost it victory. Yet these struggles were also what made the car legendary. Ferrari was not afraid to push technology to its limit, even if it meant failure on some weekends. To Enzo Ferrari, winning required risk, and risk meant sometimes living on the edge of mechanical disaster. In truth, the 375mm Spyder represented Ferrari's philosophy in its purest form. It wasn't built for comfort, it wasn't built for mass production, it was built to win. It embodied Enzo Ferrari's belief that racing success was the ultimate marketing strategy. If a car could win in the public eye, people would clamor to be part of the Ferrari name. The 375mm was Ferrari's way of declaring, "We are not just participants in this sport, we are the future of it." It is this blend of daring engineering, artistic design, and uncompromising ambition that explains why the 375mm Spyder still captures imaginations today. It was a car created to dominate the roads of Italy, the circuits of Europe, and the legends of motorsport. A car that carried Ferrari's destiny on its shoulders and roared it to the world through 12 cylinders of unfiltered power. When we talk about the Ferrari 375mm Spyder, we are not just talking about a car, we are talking about a rolling laboratory, a blend of art and engineering designed with one purpose: to dominate endurance racing. To truly understand its significance, we need to look under the skin, because the technical makeup of this Ferrari is where its legend begins. At the core of the 375mm was its engine, the Lampredi V12. Unlike Colombo's smaller 3-liter V12s, which were delicate and jewel-like, Lampredi's engines were brutes. They were larger, heavier, and designed to deliver raw power. In the case of the 375mm, displacement was just over 4.5 liters, achieved with an 84mm bore and a 68mm stroke. Fed by 3 twin-choke Weber carburetors, this engine produced around 340 horsepower at 7,000 revolutions per minute. In 1953, that was extraordinary. Remember, most sports cars of the day struggled to reach even half that figure. The Lampredi V12 was aggressive, loud, and unashamedly powerful.
But it wasn't just about horsepower. The way this engine delivered its power was equally important. It had a broad torque curve, which made it flexible in long-distance races, where drivers had to accelerate hard out of corners, climb mountain roads, and sustain top speed for hours on end. The compression ratio of about 9:1 gave it serious punch. And while reliability was sometimes a challenge, when the engine was on song, there was nothing quite like it. Drivers often described the experience as both terrifying and exhilarating, a sound and sensation that shook the ground beneath them. The engine was paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, robust by the standards of its day. Gear ratios were chosen to maximize acceleration out of tight corners while still allowing for breathtaking top speeds. In fact, on long straights, the 375mm could reach close to 180 miles per hour or 289 kilometers per hour. That figure, achieved in the early 1950s, was nothing short of shocking. Few competitors could even dream of matching such velocity. Now let's talk about the chassis and structure. The car was built on a tubular steel frame, an evolution of the earlier 340mm platform. This frame was designed to be light yet strong enough to handle the massive V12 under the hood. To keep weight down, the body was crafted from aluminum, hand-formed by Italy's greatest coach builders. The result was a dry weight of around 900 kilograms, or just under 2,000 pounds. Combine that with 340 horsepower, and you get a power-to-weight ratio that made the car a rocket ship for its time.
The suspension system was a blend of proven design and incremental innovation. At the front, the 375 mm used double wishbones with a transverse leaf spring, supported by Hudai hydraulic dampers. At the rear, a live axle with semi-elliptical springs and twin dampers provided the connection to the road. By modern standards, this setup seems primitive, but in the early 1950s, it was competitive. It gave the car stability at high speeds, though drivers often had to wrestle with its heavy steering and occasional twitchiness on uneven surfaces. The Achilles heel of the 375 mm, however, was its braking system. Ferrari equipped the car with large hydraulic drum brakes on all four wheels. They were adequate for short sprints, but in endurance racing, where cars pounded lap after lap at maximum speed, brake fade was a constant issue. Rivals like Jaguar, with its pioneering disc brakes, enjoyed a serious advantage in this area. Drivers of the 375 mm had to adapt, managing their braking carefully to avoid overheating and losing stopping power altogether. It was a weakness that sometimes cost Ferrari dearly in long-distance events. Dimensions also played a role in the car's performance. The wheelbase measured about 2,600 millimeters, giving the car a balance between high-speed stability and cornering agility. Track width, the distance between wheels, was around 1,325 millimeters at the front and 1,320 at the rear, giving it a planted stance. These proportions, combined with the sleek Spyder bodywork, gave the 375 mm its characteristic look: long, low, and aggressive, with curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. In terms of variations, the 375 mm was never a standardized model. Of the 26 cars produced, each was slightly different. Pininfarina built the majority, shaping elegant Spyders and Berlinettas. Vignale created the prototype, with its distinctive styling cues. Scaglietti contributed with rebodied racers after accidents, and even Ghia produced a unique coupe version. This diversity of design means that each surviving 375 mm is essentially one of a kind, with its own personality and aesthetic identity. Performance wasn't just theoretical. On the track, the 375 mm earned victories in prestigious events. It won the 24 Hours of Spa, the 12 Hours of Pescara, and other endurance races, showcasing its raw capability. But at Le Mans, where braking and reliability were pushed to the limit, the car sometimes faltered. Clutch problems, gearbox failures, and overheating engines reminded everyone that the line between victory and defeat was razor thin. Still, when everything came together, the 375 mm was nearly unbeatable, a monster on the straights and a spectacle for the crowds. What makes the engineering of the 375 mm so fascinating today is the duality of its character. On one hand, it was brutally mechanical, a car with no safety nets, no luxuries, and plenty of flaws. On the other, it was breathtakingly advanced for its era, a lightweight racing machine with one of the most powerful engines the world had ever seen. That tension between brilliance and imperfection is what defines its legend. To sum it up, the Ferrari 375 MM Spyder was more than just numbers on a spec sheet. It was an experiment in pushing the boundaries of 1950s technology. With its 4.5-liter V12, lightweight aluminum body, 180-mile-per-hour top speed, and distinctive coach-built designs, it was a car that embodied Ferrari's hunger for victory. And though its brakes and reliability sometimes betrayed it, the car's raw performance and charisma made it unforgettable. When we speak of the Ferrari 375 MM Spyder today, we are not only talking about a car, we are talking about a cultural artifact, a living link to the very roots of Ferrari's identity. Its legacy is tied not just to the victories it achieved, but also to the struggles it endured and the aura it left behind. This car represents both Ferrari's triumphs and its imperfections, which makes it all the more human, all the more legendary. In the world of collectors and enthusiasts, the 375 mm occupies a space few cars ever reach. It is one of those machines that transcends its mechanical nature and becomes art, history, and myth all at once. With only 26 examples ever built, it is rarer than most Ferraris, and each surviving car carries its own unique story.
Some raced across Europe's greatest circuits. Some tackled the unforgiving Mille Miglia. Others were rebodied after accidents, taking on entirely new shapes. This diversity means that every 375mm is a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, a rolling fingerprint of Ferrari's golden age.
The car's reputation was shaped by its dual role in racing. On one hand, it was a Ferrari factory tool, battling head-to-head against Jaguars and Aston Martins in endurance races. On the other hand, it was a customer car, sold to wealthy private drivers who raced on their own terms. This combination gave the 375mm a broad presence across the racing scene of the early 1950s. It wasn't just a car for Ferrari's works team, it was also the weapon of choice for the gentleman driver who wanted to be part of the Ferrari dream. That democratization of competition helped cement the Ferrari brand worldwide. But what truly keeps the 375mm alive today is the passion of those who preserve it. Collectors see it not merely as an investment, but as an heirloom of motorsport. When one of these cars appears at Pebble Beach or the Goodwood Festival of Speed, it draws crowds who want to witness history in motion. The sight of its long, low Spyder body and the sound of its Lampredi V12 firing to life are experiences that transcend time. For enthusiasts, it is a glimpse of racing's purest era, when danger was real, victories were heroic, and the machines were both beautiful and brutal. The market for the 375mm reflects this reverence. Auction results over the past 2 decades show a steady climb into the stratosphere. In 2013, a 375mm Spyder by Pininfarina sold for over $9 million. In 2022, another example, chassis 0366AM, crossed the block for nearly $7.5 million. Today, experts value surviving cars between $7 and $9 million, depending on their originality, condition, and racing history. That price tag makes the 375mm one of the most expensive Ferraris of its era, sitting alongside icons like the 250 GTO and the 250 Testarossa in terms of desirability.
And yet, money only tells part of the story. The real currency of a 375mm is provenance. Collectors look for cars with original engines, original chassis, and documented race history. A 375mm that competed at Le Mans or won a significant event will always command a premium over one that lived a quieter life. Similarly, originality matters immensely. Many cars were rebodied over the years, some by Scaglietti after crashes, others by less prominent builders. While these transformations add to the car's colorful history, they can also affect its value. In the collector market, authenticity is king. For anyone dreaming of owning one, the advice is clear: proceed with caution and deep research. Maintaining a Lampredi V12 is not like servicing a modern Ferrari. Parts are scarce, expertise is specialized, and costs are staggering. Only a handful of workshops worldwide are truly capable of handling these engines. Owning a 375mm means committing to a life of meticulous care, sourcing rare components, and respecting the car's fragility. Insurance alone requires special arrangements, and transportation demands white-glove treatment. This is not a car for casual use. It is a historical artifact that requires stewardship.
Beyond the market and the mechanics, the 375mm also fascinates because of its stories. One of the most famous examples is the so-called Bergman Coupe, a unique 375mm rebodied by Pininfarina at the request of filmmaker Roberto Rossellini for actress Ingrid Bergman. This one-off creation blurred the line between race car and movie star glamour, showing how the 375mm could transcend the racetrack and enter the cultural spotlight. Other examples carry equally compelling histories, tied to daring drivers, crashes, and triumphant comebacks. Each surviving 375mm is not just a car, but a book of stories waiting to be told. Today, the 375mm is classified as a historic sports racing car, a pure endurance machine built for competition. It sits in the pantheon of Ferrari's most important early race cars, alongside the 166mm, the 250mm, and the later 375 Plus.
But unlike those, the 375mm has an aura of scarcity and danger. It is remembered not only for its victories, but also for the risks it embodied. That duality, brilliance and fragility, is what makes it unforgettable. In the end, the legacy of the Ferrari 375mm Spyder is one of ambition. It was born in a time when Ferrari was still proving itself, and it carried the company's hopes for global recognition. Today, it survives as a symbol of Ferrari's courage to dream bigger, to build faster, and to risk everything for glory. For enthusiasts, seeing one in person is like standing before a monument, a reminder that cars are not just machines. Some, like the 375mm, are legends carved in metal, fire, and history. That roar, that history. The Ferrari 375mm Spyder isn't just a car, it's a time machine. It carries us back to the rawest days of racing when courage and horsepower defined legends. Now it's your turn. Tell me in the comments, what fascinates you most about this car, and which classic would you love to see brought to life in our next deep dive? If you enjoyed this journey, make sure to hit subscribe, turn on that little notification bell so you never miss an episode, and of course, give this video a like and share it with fellow enthusiasts who live for the sound of vintage engines and the stories behind them. Because here, every week, we're not just talking about cars, we're keeping legends alive.